Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Draft Bible Tailgate Show. We're previewing the semifinals. It's not a Saturday morning with us, but we couldn't go Saturday morning because then we wouldn't have gotten to talk to you about these games coming up tomorrow. So thank you for coming and staying with us here for the next hour as we're going to talk about the Alabama-Cincinnati game, the Georgia-Michigan game, and we're going to get to the New Year's Six Bowls, or at least some of them, and talk about them. But I am Alec Polito, not Big Law here, and I've got my esteemed panel dripping with talent as always. Here we've got Kellen Gerenstein, Hunter Pitkoff, and Lorenz Leinweber. Guys, I'm ready to talk about these games. We've been waiting. It's been a whole season. This is the 16th episode of season 2. Whole season leading up to these games. We knew we had to do a Thursday show here just so that we could get talking to them. I'm going to go to you first, Lorenz, because everyone knows you're the star of the show here. How excited are you for these two games coming up?
Oh, this is great. Getting gassed up for a second hour in a row after just being on the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl watch list. If you're telling me I'm the star, but I'm excited about it. I'm similar to Nick Saban. He just said he's got no patience. I'm kind of in the same boat. Luckily, we had at least some of the regular season film to get us through the slump. That's always going on after the conference championships, but now it's the time that matters. I'm really excited about it. They're especially the two playoff games. I think they're two new teams, which is awesome. And I can't wait to get into it. And I appreciate you getting that, doing your best, Big Law.
I tried.
Impersonation and getting the dripping with talent in there. Love to see it. But now I'm excited to chop it up, excited to talk some games, and excited to talk some prospects that are going to be in these games.
Listen, I'll never be as good as Big Law, but I can try my best. Kellen, how's it going, man? How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. I am also like Nick Saban. It's written in my Twitter bio that patience is overrated. I think patience is a virtue is BS. I don't like that saying because if you want it, go get it. And no better person to speak on that than Nick Saban. But I am excited for games. Intriguing matchups. Obviously, I think Alabama, since he has the talent. But at the same time, it's college football, and college football is a weird thing, and weird things can happen. So I'm excited for. Obviously, I wish Ohio State was in it instead of Michigan, but I'm gonna enjoy it regardless because it's football.
Absolutely. And are the M's still crossed off at the campus, or does that just happen 1 week?
Say that again, Alec. You cut out.
Oh. Are the M's still crossed off in campus, or is that only like a 1 week?
I think
thing?
so.
Yeah.
They might have taken the tape off of some of them, but there are a lot of M's crossed out. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's still a good bunch of them up.
Hunter, how are we doing today? Your team's also from the Big Ten, but they're not in this. Sorry, man.
No, Penn State wasn't sniffing the college football playoff after like week 6. But regardless, I'll still be at the Outback Bowl, though. Maybe we'll cop some free bloomin' onion or something like that. I don't know what Outback's got in store for this game, but excited to go to that at least. At least it'll be nice weather in Tampa. I think they're going to get killed by Arkansas. But, definitely excited for this college football playoff. Really interesting. Of course, we got Nick Saban, who's the vet of this whole thing at this point. Even Kirby Smart, of course, has some experience as well. So I'm really curious to see how Luke Fickell does with Cincinnati. Of course, his first berth. And then Jim Harbaugh, is he going to have another Jim Harbaugh game and blow this one? Or is he going to come through and win a game or two? I think I'm definitely curious to see how that one plays out. But again, I don't think anyone really thought this would be the 4 entering the season. So it's going to play out pretty good. I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, we're going to talk about them here. Obviously, we got Alabama, Cincinnati, Alabama being the most, at least in my recent memory, most doubted Alabama team I think we've seen in a while. And yet they're number one. They're number one here. They had a resounding win against Georgia a couple weeks back. Now they're going to take their opportunity to go play Cincinnati, who is the first group of 5 school to make this college football playoff. Obviously, what Luke Fickell has done there has been nothing short of impressive. And that Cincinnati team has so many talented NFL players on it. We're going to look and see. We're going to let Kellen preview that game in a minute here because there is a lot to talk about. And then we're all going to discuss it because it's a huge game. We'll also talk about this Michigan-Georgia game, Georgia being the most dominant team in college football up until a couple weeks ago when Alabama took them down. And Michigan, a team that was not ranked heading into the year, a team that most of us probably did not think would be there. So much doubt going in over, is Harbaugh the guy still in Michigan? Should he still be the guy? And it was put up or shut up time, and let's just say he put up. So that's another game with a ton of storylines, and obviously winners of these two games will face off in the college football national championship. Let's start here with the Alabama-Cincinnati game. Kellen, break us down this game real quick.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of I've broken down games like on the Tailgate Show all year that are like either between two unranked or two teams that are good, but not to this caliber, right? This is fun. Alabama, Cincinnati. I think, starting off with the Crimson Tide, right? They've been here, they know what to do. But I think this is the one Alabama team that we can say completely runs through the quarterback. In the past, I think Blake Sims, that first year of the college football playoff when he was the quarterback, he was kind of the first dynamic guy that Saban had that he could kind of rely on with the ball in his hands. But the offense didn't run through him. Amari Cooper was still on that team. I think Darius White was on that team. They had a lot of good football players. Not saying they don't now, but Jacob Coker, that offense wasn't running through him. Even with young Jalen Hurts and Tua, I mean, the playmakers around them were just ridiculous. Obviously, with the Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, and Jerry Jeudy. And obviously it's Alabama, right? Najee Harris, Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs. There's just a ridiculous amount. This year, Bryce Young is the guy, right? Bryce Young is the guy that the offense is running through. The offense is based around him, even with Jamison Williams. And obviously John Mechie was hurt, but all year he's been, they've been the 1A, 1B combo. And Brian Robinson is not the dripping with talent running back that we've seen from Alabama. He's probably going to be a mid to late round pick. He's not Najee Harris. He's not Damian Harris. He's not, any of those, Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, TJ Yeldon. He's not even, that. Not to diss Brian Robinson. But my point is Bryce Young is the guy. Obviously winning the Heisman Trophy, he showed that. That's the first time we've kind of seen that because that offensive line for Alabama for the first time isn't as dominant as we want them to be. That run game isn't as strong, isn't as demanding as it usually is. So Bryce Young, obviously going out making the plays against Georgia, showed that this is my offense. I'm still the guy. And he proved he was the recruit that we kind of thought he was going to be as early as it was. And then on the Cincinnati side, I got a funny story. I'll talk about the Bama defense too. But on the Cincinnati side, yesterday I put on my Instagram story, like I was watching Kaiir Elam, and I put on my Instagram story that this cornerback class is insane because I was watching Darian Kendrick, Mario Goodrich, who just won Cheez-It Bowl MVP. Corner is insane this year, insanely deep. And my neighbor actually, who plays receiver for Cincinnati, his name is Will Pauling. He's a true freshman right now. He swiped up on the story and said, have you watched or like what's your rankings? I think he asked me, or who's your one? And I told him like I think Stingley, it's hard to move him from number one. And I was like, well, I'm sure you want to know where I have Sauce at. And I'm like, right now he's kind of like 5'6". And he goes, well, actually, I was asking about Kobe. Not saying that, not going to read too much into that because obviously Sauce is who he is. I'm sure the guys respect him. But I think that Kobe Bryant is well respected among his guys and the guys that play against him more than scouts are giving him credit for. Not that either of them are going to travel with Jamison Williams because obviously John Mechie is hurt. But Kobe Bryant could really be a guy that I think could really shine in this game because Sauce Gardner has gotten the big he's gotten the media, he's gotten the hype, he's gotten the stuff from us analysts, but not so much Kobe Bryant so far. Some guys I've watched, and I'm sure some guys really like what they see from him, but as far as the hype goes, it's not there. But I think after this game, even if since he does, if they get blown out, if they win, no matter what, I think we'll see Kobe Bryant shoot up in the rankings.
Yeah, and you just talked about a couple guys on the Cincinnati team. Another big storyline I think that's going to be important here, and I'm going to throw this to you, Lorenz, to talk about is Myjai Sanders against this Alabama offensive line. Now, there's one guy on this offensive line that we've talked enough about, Evan Neal. He's phenomenal. He is going to be a top at least 6 pick, I would say, in this year's draft. He's my top tackle going in. But, Lorenz, can Myjai Sanders affect this offense? Or, well, the Alabama offense as a defender?
Yeah, a lot of talk around this Alabama offensive line, and I thought they got it all together. I think it was Bryce Young's best game of his season against Georgia. It was this offensive line's best game of the season against Georgia, especially in pass protection. They did an outstanding job. Against Evan Neal, I think Evan Neal matches up so well against really physically anything that rushers can offer, including a guy like Myjai Sanders, who boasts that length, who boasts that speed, explosiveness off the edge. I think he can match that pretty well. He's tough to beat either way because of that athleticism and that size. Still learning, technically, but he's someone who's just 21. So maybe at a couple of times Myjai Sanders is going to be able to take advantage of some bad leverage there, maybe some waist bending that is sneaking into Evan Neal's game every once in a while, but I think consistently they got to line him up over the right side of this Alabama offensive line to get pressure. Right tackle is a little more slow-footed. You might be able to get some rush ones there, but Alabama, they also do a great job, and now they've had so much time game planning. They will help their sort of quote-unquote weaker guys, because it's still Alabama. These guys are all still really, really good football players, out by keeping a running back in, to chip by keeping a tight end in, to just make that track a little bit longer for Myjai Sanders. So it's going to be tough for him. It's going to be really tough for him to disrupt that game. But I will say maybe one of the best games of his career, just from watching the film, from looking at the impact, was last year against Georgia, against Jamari Salyer, against a couple of these other tackles. So let's see. Maybe he can rise to the occasion again. It will be massive if Myjai Sanders can have a huge game. I think he's got the talent for it, but it's not going to be easy against this Alabama team and their ability to really single in on a pass rusher and slow him down.
Yeah, Hunter, I want to come to you on this next one. Obviously, Kellen alluded to it. John Mechie, huge loss for Alabama. He is out. Jamison Williams, obviously still there. Another high-level prospect that is going to find himself drafted fairly early, I would say, in the draft. Well, take that with that as you will. I think he's going to be a little bit all over the board. But how big of an impact is this that we do not have John Mechie in this game? Where can Alabama go to supplement some of that production? Is this a ginormous loss, and should Alabama be scared of this Cincinnati team without John Mechie?
Well, I think yes, because for one, like Kellen was talking about, is how good this defense is, and particularly the secondary. You got Sauce Gardner and you got Kobe Bryant, not the basketball player, football player, of course, supposed with a C. But there's two guys now that they can throw on Jamison Williams. Unlike previous Alabama teams that had 4 like first-round wide receivers, it's not really the case here. So losing John Mechie is actually pretty big. And Jamison Williams is a big, explosive guy, whereas John Mechie can open up things for Jamison Williams and vice versa. They play off of each other. Now it's really just one guy to key in on it. And unlike previous Alabama teams, there's not as much wide receivers. The guy who I'm looking at is Slade Bolden. He's third on the team in receptions at the receiver position. He's probably the guy who's going to get the most amount of snaps to fill John Mechie's void that he's leaving, of course, on the field. I expect Bryce Young, too, to kind of target the tight ends a little bit more as well. They got Cameron Latu and then Jaleel Billingsley, 2 talented tight ends. I wouldn't say, O.J. Howard level kind of guys that they've had in the past, but they're 2 tight ends that are going to have to go make plays. And like we talked about, this Cincinnati team is really, really good. And I think they're going to have to make Alabama one-dimensional one way or the other. If they can completely hone in and take away the running game, Brian Robinson, again, still a solid running back who's been very productive this year. Or, they can make Bryce Young's life hell. I think what Bryce Young did was so well, give the offensive line credit, was his ability to extend plays and use his legs. That's what he did really well against Georgia, is just evading the rush, because obviously the Bulldogs can get to the quarterback like no one else can. If they can keep Bryce Young in the pocket, which he's a great pocket passer, but if you can limit his ability to move, extend plays like that, that's going to be a big difference. And losing such a reliable receiver like John Mechie will not make it easy on him.
Yeah. Hunter, can I get a prediction on this game?
I think it will be very close in the first half. I actually think Cincinnati's going to throw everything they can at Alabama. But the one thing I've learned about Nick Saban is how good he is coming out of halftime in those third quarters. Like this dude, he just knows the adjustments. He's done it year in and year out, no matter what program he's with. And I think that's when we're going to see Alabama kind of extend the lead. I think it's like a 13-point spread in this one. I think it'll be probably around that, maybe like a 34-20 kind of score. I think it'll be relatively close. But I'm very excited, though, because it's not a great quarterback matchup like in all of college football playoff. Like usually you see like the best of the best quarterbacks. But this is the best one we're going to get between Desmond Ridder and Bryce Young, most likely. So I'm curious to see how Desmond Ridder looks against Alabama. Of course, is going to be his biggest challenge. But Bryce Young, over the last game and maybe like 2 minutes of the previous game against Auburn, he has been the best player in college football. And I think he's going to make enough plays even without Mechie to win this game.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a little bit more excited for the Bryce Young, Desmond Ritter matchup than the Cade McNamara, Stetson Bennett.
Hey, don't take away from my preview, man.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm sorry. Lorenz, do you have a preview on this game? I mean, prediction?
First of all, I have so much respect for Luke Fickell doing this at Cincinnati, a quote-unquote non-Power 5 conference, a team like that really – historically, maybe the third biggest team in Ohio, if I'm getting it right, second or third, probably second. Getting all these first-round picks, and they have talent all over the board, especially this defense. They got dynamic wide receiver in Alec Pierce, so I'm excited to see who I think has got a good chance to win his matchup against Josh Joby. They got a quarterback who's a little bit hot or cold. He's got to play the best game of his career, but at the end of the day, Nick Saban has had, 3 weeks to prepare for this. He is the best in the business. At coaching, we talk about halftime adjustments. They always have an all-star roster of coaches working with Nick Saban really in the last couple of years, especially if you have that slight talent disadvantage that I do think at the end of the day Cincinnati still has, especially if you look at the depth of this Alabama football team. It's really hard to beat Nick Saban with 3 weeks to prepare. That said, they can make this team one-dimensional. Teams have done it before. LSU was able to do it. Auburn was able to do it. So far, quarterback Bryce Young has prevailed. I think he's got some special poise for a 19, 20-year-old quarterback. We'll talk about him a lot in next year's cycle. I think Alabama wins it, though, 31-17, maybe 31-20, just because I think the talent advantage and the difference in quarterback play is going to be too much to overcome for Cincinnati. But I think getting here, reaching this, is already such a big accomplishment for Luke Fickell, for his coaching staff, for this program, that everything on top will be, the bonus would be the just special. And this accomplishment has already been very, very special.
Kellen, coming to you, man.
My prediction for the game?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to 42-24 Bama. I do think Hunter's right. I think Cincinnati will keep it close for a little bit. Or it'll be the exact opposite. Bama might just blow it out the water, and Cincinnati might do like a backdoor cover at the end of the game, something like that. But I just think that, talent matters and coaching matters. And not saying Luke Fickell can't coach, because obviously that would just be dumb for anyone to say that. But, Nick Saban is Nick Saban. Alabama has the talent that they have. And I just think in these moments, they always show up. It's very hard to find a team that Nick Saban coaches that's going to be undisciplined or unprepared in a game like this. So hard to not take the Crimson Tide. I do think Cincinnati plays them tough, but I'll take them in the end by a couple scores.
Yeah, we're going clean sweep here. I don't think this game – I think this game will be a decent one to watch, but I don't think it's going to necessarily end as a close game. And I'm taking Alabama. I think Bryce Young is either the best quarterback in college football, or he's the second best quarterback in college football. I haven't decided which one of him or Stroud I'm more in on yet, but it's one of the two. And I think that this Cincinnati team, as good as they are, I just can't keep up with them against Nick Saban with this much time to prepare. I'm taking Bama in this one as well. We're all four going with Nick Saban. Now we're going to get to this next game. If we're right, the winner of this next game will play Alabama in the College Football National Championship. We got Michigan against Georgia. Lorenz, take it away.
Yeah, I love to see it getting to preview a game of two teams. So I think have a great philosophy. You guys all know I'm a massive fan of this Georgia defense, and also Jim
Yeah,
Harbaugh
we know.
as a head coach has really been one of the people that made me fall in love with football to start off with. So now you all know my biases, but I think this is really this is a clash of two teams that are big and strong up front, whether it's the defensive line or the offensive line for either of these teams. They win with that physicality, with the ability to enforce their will on the opponents. That is the way to win football games in December and January, and to win playoff games. So it's going to be really, really interesting. Starting off with the Michigan offense against this Georgia defense. This is an offense that they need to run the football, similar to this Georgia offense. We'll get into it in a little bit, but this is a team built around running the football, and Georgia have done an incredible job defending the run this year. That's been a program ever since Kirby Smart got there. They've had so-called bloodbath practices where they just play the run, and they're not allowed to give up yards for whatever, an hour or something like that. And it's really showed, because this is a team that's been outstanding against the run. So just a matchup of strength on strength, which is going to be so much fun to see. And that's also something that could come down to who's got that little bit of an edge, more of motivation going into the game. Not doubting any of these two coaches getting their guys ready, but that is going to be outstanding film to watch, whether it's Big Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker. We've talked about all these names for a long time against this really, really great Michigan offensive line. Andrew Stuber is a name who's going to be around in draft cycles. With the run game, if they can shut down the run game, I think it's going to be tough for Cade McNamara. It's going to be about this quarterback matchup, which helps us transition over to the offensive side for Georgia. I think Michigan is a lot more conservative with how they use Cade McNamara. It's a lot of RPOs, those over the middle, on those sort of designed openings that they open up with the run game, getting those linebackers to step up, throwing it in behind them. This Stetson Bennett offense and this Georgia offense, they like to be a lot more aggressive, man. It's great evaluating safeties against this team, because offensive coordinator Todd Monken wants to air that ball out. And better believe Stetson Bennett's going to give you 2 or 3 chances a game to make a play on the football. So Daxton Hill is one of the star safeties, one of the star players off this Michigan defense, potentially going to have a shot, potentially going to have a chance to change the game in that sense. And then you look at the Georgia run game. I think especially the left side of that offensive line, including the center, Cedric Van Pran, have done a great job. They got to find a way to block Aiden Hutchinson, and when they drop back to pass to block David Ojabo, who is incredibly light-footed, is going to beat pretty much any tackle in the country just with his athleticism. You just can't mirror him for long enough if you want to take those shots downfield. Get Brock Bowers, the tight end, in the game. He's going to see a healthy dose of Daxton Hill. And then how healthy is George Pickens? I think if he is, he's a difference maker. He made some big catches downfield. Those are the kind of guys that Stetson Bennett needs to just trust and get the ball up in one-on-one matchups, because the thing with a guy like Stetson Bennett is I think he's got that trait at quarterback, and we saw it against Alabama. He can make a bad play when that first read is covered up really bad for you and cause turnovers, put the ball in jeopardy. And Georgia, they got to do everything to prevent that from happening. But at the end of the day, if there's a team that can stop the run in this game, that's going to be the team that wins this game, I think, because both these teams are limited when it comes to the passing game in different ways. I think Michigan's a little more conservative, obviously, and that can go both ways. So, but if you force either of these two teams to pass, that's not what they want to do. So that's going to be the big part, or the biggest part of this football game. And then whoever throws the ball, can Georgia get those aggressive plays, and can Michigan not get negative yards? Can they keep this offense on schedule? Because if they can, it's going to be trouble for them.
Yeah. Hunter, I want to come to you real quick on this. Michigan, obviously, great running team. They're going to have to go up against Big Jordan Davis up the middle. That's not a recipe for success that any team has had so far this year. Nobody has really been able to take or to beat that. It's an advantage for Georgia. If you're Michigan, how are you winning with this offense? Is there what would you focus on?
you have to run the ball. You can't just avoid it because, like Lorenz said, this is what this team has been predicated off the whole season. You got to play your game to win this game. And ironically, Georgia plays pretty similar as well because they have a lot of really good running backs as well. Getting George Pickens back for them is, of course, huge, but who knows what he's going to look like? He hasn't really played this year. So, who knows what you're going to get from him. But looking at Michigan here, I would actually argue, a three-headed monster. You got Son Haskins, who's going to wear you down, get all those carries. Blaine Corum, he's like the home run hitter. And then Donovan Edwards is kind of coming to his own too. He's kind of like the trick play guy. They use him all over the field, both handing him the ball off and then using him in the pass game as well. You're going to have to rely on that to win this game and then to make Cade McNamara's life a lot easier. I was also seeing some stuff too that Michigan, they are fifth in the country when polling their offensive linemen for run plays. But they do it a lot and they do it very often. And you're going to have to, against a great Georgia defensive line, especially Jordan Davis, you're going to have to block him somehow. So you have to come up with ways to run it on the outside. Michigan runs a lot of wheel routes as well. So getting those receivers like Corum and Edwards involved out of the backfield, because you got to get your ball in the playmaker's hands. That's the ideal of any offensive coordinator, including Josh Gaddis. Get the ball in your best player's hands. Of course, they got tight end Eric All, who's really good as well. That's what they're going to have to do to beat this Georgia team. And then looking at Georgia as well, it's going to kind of be the same thing. Can Aiden Hutchinson and Ojabo make Stetson Bennett's life a living hell? That's pretty much what it's going to come down to. If he's going to have all the time in the world to evade the pocket and create with his legs as well, that's going to be a big issue for Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun when you get to run. It's like, oh, if we go up the middle, we got Jordan Davis. We go off to the side. Hey, there's Trayvon Walker. Oh, let's get to the second level. Oh, there's Nakobe Dean. A lot of fun. You know, these are problems that Georgia doesn't have to deal with, but other teams who go against them will. Kellen, we got to talk about Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo. How, in your opinion, how much of are these guys good enough where even if everything else fails for Michigan, can they still win this game for Michigan?
Maybe. You know, I think they are good enough to disrupt a game for 60 minutes, right? I mean, we saw it in the game against Ohio State. We saw it. We've seen it all year, right? These guys are just disruptors. Aiden Hutchinson is a bully. The guy just finds ways to win. He's relentless. He has a great motor, and like Lorenz said, David Ojabo is more of the athletic freak at the position, the guy you're really betting on traits. But he's found a lot of ways to win too. Loves that spin back inside. Lorenz is right. You can't mirror him for too long. He's just too fast. He's just too quick. So I do think they affect the game because, you know, Georgia, if they got the quarterback right, if Georgia's got KJ Jefferson at quarterback, they probably win the national championship this year with ease. They just walk through it, but they don't have KJ Jefferson. They've got Stetson Bennett. No disrespect to Stetson Bennett, but I just don't.
JT Daniels, is he coming?
I think I just checked on him. I think he just cleared COVID, but I don't think he's starting. Maybe something like that.
No, he's healthy, but they were like militant about Stetson Bennett being the guy,
which is so weird to me.
It's crazy
because I feel like
Kirby
should learn a lesson. Yeah,
if they're down for sure.
He did not rule out
Big Law.
JT Daniels. What's up, Big Law?
So
I was just gonna say they did not rule out JT Daniels playing, but they were adamant about how good a leader. Pretty much what's been going on for 2 years in the Stetson Bennett discourse.
So Stetson Bennett just has to be good enough, right? But I do think that those guys will disrupt the game. But you know, Kirby learned his lesson from his mentor, Nick Saban, right? Nick Saban had Jalen Hurts for 2 years, was his guy, and made the switch at halftime in the national championship. And I'm not saying that might have to happen. What actually is more reminiscent of that might be Michigan's side of the ball. J.J. McCarthy has played well. When he's gotten in, he hasn't had the best sample size, but the flashes have been there. He's a 5-star quarterback, not far from me. I've known the kid since he was in 8th grade. He's always been the guy wherever he's gone. He's the best quarterback, the best talent on that team. It doesn't mean that he might not be their best chance to win the game. But if it gets to that, right, can Jim Harbaugh make that switch? Can he go to JJ McCarthy, you know, when the time comes? But as for Georgia, I just think they have to control the game with their defense, with the ground game. Like you said, they've got the 3-headed monster, James Cook, Kendall Milton, Zamir White. They're all really good running backs. their skill positions on offense, I think are still a pretty good matchup for them, even though Michigan's secondary has been playing, fairly well over the last few weeks. I just think Georgia's just a bit too much to handle for them. That defense is just something else, man. Every time I turn that tape on, you pick one of your 11, man. I mean, like you just said, every level, there's just an obscene amount of football talent. Kaylee Ringo, Darian Kendrick, Lewis Seen, Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, Nakobe Dean, and then obviously Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, Jalen Carter, who's going to be a really good player for years to come. It's just ridiculous. So I do think that we might see that conversation come up where Georgia's up like 21-0. Herb Street or whoever's in the game is like, well, are they going to go with McCarthy? Are they going to, because I just think that, the matchup favors Georgia more than Ohio State doesn't have that run stuffing, guy in the middle. They don't have Jordan Davis who can keep your guys clean. Ohio State just didn't have that. And their ends just didn't spill any of their pullers well. The run game just did not do what it needed to do against Michigan in that game. I think Georgia's too well coached. I think they've had weeks to prepare for this game, and I just think they have a better defense. They have better talent. They got better football players. So I do think the matchup favors Georgia a little bit more, and the weather favors Georgia more. Right? This is the Orange Bowl. This isn't Ann Arbor, Michigan, in late November where the snow is falling, sticking on the ground. This is Miami, man. So. Both teams struggle to throw the ball at times. Both teams love that ground game. Both teams love their defense. I just think that in this game, all things considered, Georgia is better at all those things than Michigan is. But that doesn't mean that Michigan can't play them well and or win the game.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be insane if we come out in the second half with JT Daniels against JJ McCarthy? Something.
And real quick, go back 10 years. Jim Harbaugh has a history of making that switch. I know it was injury related with going with Colin Kaepernick after Alex Smith got hurt, but yeah. He's also got a history of going with the potentially younger, more talented guy. So there's some quarterback intrigue here. Although we were sort of talking about the other game of being the better quarterback matchup. There's definitely some.
This is the more interesting
with
one.
These situations.
Yeah.
Kellen, can I get a prediction on this game?
Sure. I'm going to go I would think I'm going to go low scoring. I'm going to go like 24. I'm going to go 24-21 Georgia over Michigan. I think this one could be a range of things, right? It could be Michigan dominates, it could be Georgia dominates, but like I said, I just think at the end of the day, Georgia's got the better talent, they got better football players, and I think that matters in a game like this.
Hunter, how about you?
I agree with Kellen, but I'm actually going Michigan. I think I'm going to say 20-13, low-scoring game. I think Michigan gets the ball, either final drive or like one of the final drives. They get a touchdown. I just think their offense has more capabilities of just having that big play come out of nowhere. We saw a crack in the armor, if you will, against Alabama. I mean, Bryce Young's a whole different animal, of course. This guy won the Heisman for a reason. But Michigan has shown that they can get big plays too, especially in the run game or getting it to their running backs. They have very explosive playmakers on this team too. They execute well in the red zone also. They have a great offensive line, whereas probably even better than Alabama's. So I think that Michigan will actually win this one. And maybe an upset. I think Georgia's a favorite, and they'll go against Alabama for the Natty.
Lorenz.
Yeah, I do think this is Georgia's game to lose because I do think they have a bit more talent, but the margins are going to be thin in this game. If Georgia makes mistakes, you better believe this Michigan team's going to be there and going to be ready to pounce. Stetson Bennett can't throw 2 interceptions. They can't fumble a football, can't fumble a kickoff. These things can happen because this Michigan team is not going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to take every yard. They're going to fight for every inch. It's going to be awesome to watch in the trenches. And like I said, if Georgia comes out with sloppy, if there's anything not going right for this Georgia team, Michigan's going to take advantage quick. So I think this is actually going to be a very tight game. I am going to end up picking Georgia 21-17. But like I said, if there's a Stetson Bennett pick 6, it could turn this game on its head. So things like that can happen. Georgia can't make mistakes. And at the end of the day, I think this Georgia defense is going to be able to do more against the run, is going to be able to stop that run. But Michigan, they got to run to the perimeter. They got to fool these linebackers, maybe get a big play here and there. Maybe an onside kick coming out of half, something like that to take advantage. But I wouldn't rule this team out. I wouldn't rule Jim Harbaugh out of this game. I've seen him win a lot of big games with the San Francisco 49ers, and now would be a good time to start doing that at Michigan. But at the end of the day, gotta go with my head, sort of, and take the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think that this Georgia team is just so talented at all levels of the defense. They can make an impact at any moment in any point or facet of the game. So I think that when you talk about it, this Michigan team is great. It's fun to watch. I just think Georgia does it all better, except maybe the pass rush, which is still no slight to Georgia, who rushes the passer with the best of them. I think Georgia wins this game. I think as long as Stetson Bennett doesn't ruin the game, which is the whole reason you're starting Stetson Bennett, is so that, hey, just don't ruin the game, right? And I think Georgia wins this one. I do think it's low scoring and close, but I'm taking Georgia in this one. Not a clean sweep though. We got a Michigan pick there, so we'll see if Hunter's right or if it's Alabama Georgia rematch, and we'll get into that game next week. But hey, let's talk. We got some time here, so let's talk about the New Year's Six bowls. Hold on, we got them right here. Penn State versus Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. We'll have Hunter on site. We got Oklahoma State versus Notre Dame in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. We got Iowa against Kentucky in the, is it Verbo or VRBO?
I think it's Verbo.
Verbo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verbo Citrus Bowl. We got Utah against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. And we got Baylor, Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, there's some good matchups. I don't know why, I don't know why we had the two semifinal games on the 31st instead of the 1st, but we got some good matchups.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid.
Yeah. Kellen, I'm going to come to you here real quick. Might be obvious. Which game are you most excited for?
All right, so I'm not gonna pick Ohio State Utah because that's just cheating, and like
Right.
why would I do that? That would make this show boring. You said Oklahoma State Notre Dame is the Fiesta Bowl, right?
Yes.
I'm not gonna pick that either. I'm gonna go Sugar Bowl. Baylor. I'm gonna go Baylor Ole Miss. I just remember back when I really started to fall in love with college football, like beginning of high school, like that 13, 14 years. And that was when TCU like was really pissed that Ohio State jumped them in the playoff rankings and got in. And then TCU was like, we'll show you. And they went out and like blew the doors off of Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. It was like 42-3. That was Trayvon Boykin, like prime years of Gary Patterson. It was so fun to me because I really like Trayvon Boykin. I really like Josh Doxson. I love that football team. So the Sugar Bowl with that Big 12 SEC always has a special place in my heart. Me and Lorenz broke down Matt Corral. I like what Matt Corral has to bring. But, I mean, Lane is a very, very creative play caller, and Matt Corral executes what he has to do very well. Now, does that translate to the NFL? I don't really think so. But that does he have a Senior Bowl invite? He does.
Maybe. He's getting one if it's not official.
Because I think there's one more spot left. He's going to get that. So I think that this is big for him, right? It's his last college football game before the playoffs come. And I think Kenny Pickett actually plays today.
I don't think he's playing though. I think he opted out.
Yeah, he opted out.
That's lame.
Kenneth Walker's not playing either for Michigan State.
So
yeah, no one's playing in these playoff games,
which is
anymore.
fair. It's fair to them, but I would have loved to see Kenny Pickett one more time. But on the side of Baylor, I think Gary Bohannon is still playing quarterback for them. That's just a good coach football team, right? Not a lot of star power there. Dave Aranda has done a fantastic job filling in for Matt Rule, and that program was really in shambles after the Bryles era, left them how they were. They were 1-11, I think, in Matt Rule's first year, and then the next year they almost go undefeated, get beat by Oklahoma twice. But I think it's a solid football game. Guys who like college football are really going to like this one because there isn't going to be a bunch of opt-outs, because there isn't an esteemed panel dripping with talent among those two teams like we have here. But that's a fun game to watch. I think the Sugar Bowl is a great atmosphere. And even though I think Ohio State Utah is the more intriguing matchup, I do think even with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave opting out, I think it's still the most intriguing matchup. But I'm not going to pick it because that would just be way too predictable, and I don't want to be that. I want to be the fun guy on the panel.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. And this is a fun game. We got Dave, like you said, Dave Aranda against Lane Kiffin. Great coaching matchup.
Defense versus offensive mind.
Yeah, I mean this is a game that you definitely got to be tuned into. I'm going to say the game I'm most excited for is Ohio State Utah, because this Utah team is coming on. It has been one of the hottest teams in the country the last couple weeks. They blew out Oregon 2 weeks in a row. Oregon, maybe they were frauds. It's possible. But they did beat this Ohio State team. And then
Sure
Utah blew them up. And now Utah gets to go, hey, let's go play Ohio State. But I do love this Ohio State team. I love C.J. Stroud. I think that he is a phenomenal quarterback. And I cannot wait to see him next year with this Ohio State team. Obviously, he's going to lose Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. But they've got talent there still. There's no question about it. They've got probably the best one. The best of the receivers is Jackson and Jimba Smith, who is still going to be there. I mean, those two might be your 1 and 2 in the Heisman vote next year. Bryce Young will still be back, but I am real excited for this Utah-Ohio State game. Hunter, do I even have to go to you? Which game you're most excited about? It's gonna be the one you're at.
Yeah, I think I'm way more excited just to be in Florida than the game itself, because Penn State had a bunch of opt-outs. Jahan Dotson's not playing. Jaquan Brisker's not playing. Brandon Smith's not playing. Like, I'm getting sick and tired of all these players out there. Like, Brandon Smith's not going in the first round. What the hell is he opting out for? Like, you think him having a good game against KJ Jefferson wouldn't help his stock at all? Like, he's such a dynamic quarterback. Like, if you're able to have a good game against Arkansas, I think that only helps him more. I at least have a lot of respect for Matt Corral. I don't love him as a player. We can obviously get into that more when we talk about draft season and Senior Bowl and stuff like that. But I respect him for having the heart to actually go out there and play his final game of college football. It just shows he cares. And I think if you're going to be a leader of a franchise, show me you care. You know what I mean? Don't do all this talk, because we've seen quarterbacks who are unmotivated but talented suck, a la Sam Darnold for the Panthers. So I at least respect Matt Corral for going out there and doing this thing. And I know that got a little personal on my end, but yeah, I think the Outback Bowl will be interesting. I'll be at least fun watching it. Notre Dame, Oklahoma State could be interesting. Yeah, and
no Brian Kelly.
Bowls, yeah, these New Year's Six Bowls.
I'm excited to see Marcus Freeman be a head coach.
Yeah, he deserves it. The dude, he can, did a great job as the DC there. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job as a head coach. I mean, it took him, we were talking about, who's going to take that Notre Dame job? It was going to be Luke Fickell, but then it was just nope, Marcus Freeman. They made that immediately. They knew that he was going to be the heir apparent at some point.
Am I the only one that was more excited for Marcus Freeman as a head coach than Brian Kelly? If I was LSU, I would have been more excited if I got an interview with Marcus Freeman. I know disrespect to Brian Kelly, but I just
especially after that Brian Kelly video with
I'm
all the way out on the Brian Kelly at LSU
branch,
before it ever happened.
Oh, geez.
It's got to be a disaster.
I don't know, man. These New York Six Bowls, because all these players opting out, they're not as good of games. I think the Rose Bowl, a lot of players are still there, which is good. I guess good. Ohio State has a lot of young players on the team.
Yeah.
Since it's basically going to be a similar roster to what they already have. Utah's playing great football. I don't know. I think the answer might be just the college football playoff for the games we're most excited to watch.
Yeah. Lorenz, you got it. Do you have a game? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
I just want to say for Ohio State and Utah, one, if Ohio State loses, I think that's very, very bad for the coaching staff, because the three best teams you played all year, you lost to. That's not very good.
Yeah.
Two, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. Oh my God, we're losing 2 first-round receivers. However, will we replace them?
Right.
First of all, let's start with 5-star Julian Fleming, who is the number 1 player in his class. Or let's go with the son of Marvin Harrison, one of the greatest receivers of all time. And then, who's going to replace Garrett Wilson? Oh, let's go 5-star recruit Emeka Egbuka. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, man. It's ridiculous what the Buckeyes got going on in that room. But go ahead, Lorenz. Sorry about that.
I'm actually excited for it because this is kind of a preview of how these teams are going to be looking next year,
Like
right?
spring ball, basically.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, basically, this is basically the first game of the 2022 college football season, which
it's
New Year's
2022.
6. I'm down for it. It's happening in 2022. So I do think we've seen some exciting players stepping up. Trayvon Walker originally had that breakout game against Baylor 2 years ago now, and whatever bowl game they played in. First time I really was made aware of him. But nonetheless, I was picking the Sugar Bowl too, Ole Miss versus Baylor. I think this is this explosive RPO-based kind of offense against this defense, which I was just watching and evaluating safety JT Woods, who's a good player. Who that's a name to keep on your radar. Free safety, single high kind of guy, a lot of range with a 6'2", 190-pound frame. But anyways, this is a really well coached defense. I could see players like Jalen Petrie, Terrell Bernard, if they're playing, force Matt Corral into some bad plays, into some negative plays, because they're so great with their eye discipline. The film study really shows up. They have no hesitation when they do trigger. And they're right most of the time, which is going to be a lot of fun to see. Don't really care that much about this Baylor offense against the Ole Miss defense. Although Ole Miss, they do have some good players on that defensive line if they're playing. Not sure what the status is there right now, but you guys are basically taking away all the storylines I was going to get into with the first game of the Marcus Freeman era for Notre Dame versus Oklahoma State. That should be fun again because it's kind of that preview, what's to come. How does Marcus Freeman prepare a team over 3 weeks to play really, really not calling Oklahoma State elite this year, but they're a tough team to beat. They can give anyone a run for their money. And then Ohio State, I think this defensive line is going to be challenged because this has been a unit that has really been in their 2 losses bullied. They have really, to me, when I think Ohio State defensive line 2021, I think soft right away. I think you can run on this unit. I think they're bad against the run. They don't really take pride in it. Just my perception, right? Can they prove me wrong against a Utah team who's been running roughshod over a couple teams here in the last month? That's actually really intriguing. That's a matchup that I'm really excited to see and that I can't wait for, because I think this Utah team was the team that I pegged as if there would be a 12-team playoff. I don't think anyone would want to play them because of how good they've been the last couple weeks and how well coached they've been really for the last 5-6 years now. I got a lot of NFL players in, got a lot of players into the league as well. But Ohio State defensive line, man, show me something. Show me some life, because you guys have not been getting the job done this year in the run game.
Well, Lorenz, give me a scouting matchup that you are most excited for.
Yeah, we just talked about Sauce Gardner earlier, and he's going to see some of Jameson Williams. I think if there's a knock on Sauce Gardner as speed, as he's sometimes too grabby, things like that. Well, listen, there's no better speed receiver draft eligible than Jameson Williams, so that's going to be a great matchup for everyone to go back to with the highest of honors in college football at stake, getting a chance to play for the national championship. So Sauce Gardner versus Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, maybe some questions about his strength. Hey, Gardner, he's physical. So who can win that matchup? Really excited about that. That's a film that I'm going to be going back to around draft season, assuming both these guys are going to declare.
Kellen, got a scouting matchup here that you're most excited about?
Well, Lorenz just kind of took mine. So I guess
he always does that.
Yeah. I do hope Evan Neal and Myjai Sanders can get some one-on-one reps. I think that that might not be the first game for Alabama that everyone turns on, but definitely for Myjai Sanders, even if he doesn't go up against Evan Neal, this is going to be the first Myjai Sanders tape everyone puts on. But again, I haven't watched a lot of Kobe Bryant, and he is changing his number from 7 to 8 in honor of the Black Mamba, which is pretty cool. he's gonna be tested. I don't think that Sauce is gonna travel with Jameson Williams. I don't think Kobe will travel with Jameson Williams. But I do think that, like I said, I think everyone is gonna. Kobe's gonna be one of those late risers in the process. There's always a few in the draft for whatever reason, from January to April, they go from unheard of to like a Jamin Davis last year. Not saying that Jamin Davis was unheard of or that he wasn't a good player, but he like that stock really shot up. Or Jason Owe was a really good player, but he didn't really start to get that first round stuff until the pro day. So I think anything like that could be for Kobe or for Mijay Sanders, anything like that.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, the media is late on Kobe Bryant because his name was out there around there as a top cornerback, as one of the better cornerbacks in this class, really among NFL teams throughout the summer. So really, really good shout there. I wish I would have gotten to his film, but scouting the Southeast, I haven't been able to thus far. But you're absolutely right. This is a name that is really a day 2 candidate at worst, I guess, but I think that's a realistic range for him.
Hunter, you got a scouting matchup that you're excited about?
Yeah, in my notes, I just wrote the entire Cincinnati program versus Nick Saban. Like, I know it's cheating a little bit, but I really think, like, we talked about all these great players that are going to be in this game for Cincinnati. I'm not even against if they win this game, but if it's like a really close game, like a 1-score game, and Cincinnati's in there for 60 minutes, like, you got to assume that Desmond Ridder has the game of his life. You have to assume, the guy we didn't even mention, Jerome Ford, does his thing at the running back position. Alec Pierce, who we talked about, and defensive side of the ball, you got Mijay Sanders, a few more guys as well in that front seven, Curtis Brooks, Darian Beavers, Joel DeBlanco. Like, there's a lot of good guys in this game. If they can show out, Luke Fickell as well has to do his job. And that's not a scouting matchup, but he's got to put these guys in a position to win this game as well. I think a lot of guys for Cincinnati in particular can really boost their stock if they have great games.
Desmond Ridder, who I don't think anyone in this panel is a huge fan of, but if he plays well this game, I mean, it's very hard to deny him, in a wide open QB class, of him really being a riser. I'm like I said, not a huge fan of him. I've said a lot of, not great things about him and his accuracy, right. But he hasn't been awful this year, and he has gotten better, I think. So if this is the game to prove that, all these guys who are saying good stuff about me, who I disagree with, this is the game where he's got to put it together and kind of be the guy. I've got to put it together and show that I'm the NFL guy everyone's saying I am. Yeah.
Looking at Desmond Ridder here, he puts together a game against this Alabama defense, which is dripping with talent. You're talking about a guy who's at least opened himself up into that day 2 conversation. I still don't see him as a day 1 guy, more so a day 3 guy for me. But hey, in this quarterback class where we had a lot of these mid-round guys go back to school, it's very clear that he could end up as a day 2 type quarterback in this class. I think that this is a matchup that he has to take advantage of. And if he wins this game and goes to the national championship game, there's no doubt in my mind that someone's going to take a shot on him in the second round. He's got arm strength. He's got zip. Does he have can he ever figure out the accuracy? I don't know.
He played well against Notre Dame too. Let's not forget that. His biggest game of his career. Yeah.
If he comes out in these 2 games and dominates, I can't see a way in which he doesn't end up as at least a 3rd round pick. But matchup I'm really looking for is these. I want to see these Michigan running backs against Jordan Davis. Can they get going? The vision has to be really good because Jordan Davis covers about 7 holes. So you have to see the play as it's happening. And I think that I really like Blake Corum. I think Hassan Haskins does have something to him, but you got to be good in this game and you got to be smart. Can Michigan control that at the offensive line? Can they control this game? Can their running backs take advantage of plays? Because if Michigan wants to win this game, they need to be sound. I really do think Michigan can win this game, and this is no disrespect to the number 2 team in the nation, but if they want to win this game, they have to be sound at every aspect of this game, and I think that one is taking advantage of these running backs. These running backs are really good players, and if they can find the hole and I guess you can't beat Jordan Davis, but if you can get him a little bit, that's going to be key for them. That's the matchup I'm most excited for, but that's all we got. We've gone through the games that you hopefully you want to hear. We're excited to break them down. We'll break them down even more, or the national championship game in even more depth next week, we'll get on and either do that on Sunday or Monday, depending on when we can get the panel together. But it'll be for the 10th, January 10th national championship game. We'll get on and break that down. Guys, that's all we got. Hunter, you got any parting shots for us?
I'm very curious with all the rumors about college football playoff expansion. If this week slate of games has any effect on the committee's decision to potentially expand, I don't know. I think that's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Kellen?
Same. I guess I can piggyback off of that. If you have a 12-team playoff, I said this I think a while ago. There's no opt-outs. There are no opt-outs. There is no maybe. I think everyone wants to play for the national championship, and you get another home game in college football, which I think is pretty cool. I can't say what's best for college football. That's just my opinion. I think they should go to 12. But yeah, I mean, one part of me says, I'm going to miss college football, and I'm sad the season's coming to an end. But another part is, God, I'm excited to watch Kyle Hamilton and Kayvon Thibodeau and freaking Andrew Booth and get all these guys tape. I am very excited to put all that stuff on. So when this is all over, better believe, we're going to be down at the Senior Bowl. You got Lorenzo will be in LA for the Collegiate Bowl. So we're going to have a lot of fun with draft season. Keep it tuned here with SI and the Draft Bible, because I know I'll have you covered. I don't know about Lorenz. Sometimes I gotta whip him into shape. I gotta keep him straight in line. But
yeah, this guy's never watching tape. I think Lorenz and I text every time we text. He's texting me about a player that he is watching at the moment. This guy doesn't take a break. But and Lorenz, any parting shots?
I'm also excited about doing final evaluations. We're in the thick of it. It's a lot of fun. Wouldn't want any other way. But yeah, have a happy new year. Everyone out there watching, listening, following us around all year, really, with the Tailgate Show. This is a lot of fun to do every week. I love talking about these games, and yeah, let's expand those playoffs. Let's make more games matter, and that way get even more premier matchups for a couple of these young men competing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. These games are going to be awesome. Getting the film for it's going to be even better. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody.